Lewis Hamilton fined for drinking Red Bull while wearing a Ferrari suit. Stay until the end for all the details. Lewis Hamilton has always been a magnet for drama, but what unfolded behind the sacred doors of the Ferrari garage at Maranello was nothing short of a full-blown Formula One earthquake. In a sport where every action is scrutinized down to the smallest detail, Hamilton's seemingly innocent gesture turned into an absolute firestorm that rocked the foundations of the Scuderia, sent sponsors into a blind rage, and resulted in an eye-watering €100,000 fine that nobody saw coming. The incident that shook Ferrari to its core, betrayal or blunder. It started like any other day in the hallowed halls of Maranello. Engineers were knee-deep in analyzing critical updates to the SF24, mechanics were perfecting their workflows, and Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur was closely monitoring every move, ensuring that nothing, absolutely nothing, disrupted the team's razor-sharp focus. But then, in the span of mere seconds, Lewis Hamilton did the unthinkable. After a routine debrief, Hamilton took a step back from the high-intensity discussions. No alarms. No suspicions. Just a man taking a break, or so it seemed. But then it happened. In full view of Ferrari staff executives, and unbelievably, the ever-lurking media, Hamilton casually reached for a can of Red Bull, cracked it open, and took a slow, deliberate sip. The moment that ignited a Ferrari meltdown. At first, silence. A stunned, almost eerie stillness fell over the garage. But within seconds, the mood shifted violently. Engineers froze mid-motion, jaws dropped, and whispers turned into outright gasps. The disbelief was instant. Lewis Hamilton, standing inside the Ferrari garage, drinking a Red Bull. For a split second, time itself seemed to stop. Then, all hell broke loose. Is this a joke? The Ferrari crew erupts in outrage. A senior Ferrari engineer was the first to react. "Tell me this isn't happening," he reportedly muttered under his breath, his face turning ghostly pale. Within seconds, multiple Ferrari executives stormed forward, their eyes locked on the seven-time world champion as if he had just committed the ultimate act of treason. Frédéric Vasseur, known for his composed demeanor, slammed his clipboard onto a table, sending papers flying across the garage. "Are you out of your mind, Lewis?" he allegedly shouted, his voice echoing through the walls of Maranello like a thunderclap. Mechanics exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether to intervene or let the chaos unfold. The Ferrari PR team was already scrambling to contain the potential PR disaster, while sponsors on-site stood in frozen horror. Sponsors furious. This is an insult to everything we stand for. And then came the fallout. Ferrari's top-tier sponsors were absolutely livid. Within minutes, urgent phone calls were being made. A key Ferrari representative for Shell, one of the team's biggest partners, was overheard saying, "This is an insult to everything we stand for. How do you expect us to just ignore this?" Puma, Santander, and Ray-Ban representatives were reportedly left speechless. One unnamed insider revealed that an executive from a major Ferrari sponsor nearly walked out of the garage in disgust. But the real explosion came from Ferrari's historic ties with energy drinks. The prancing horse has always kept a strict distance from Red Bull's branding, fiercely protecting its own partnerships. Seeing Hamilton, a potential future Ferrari driver, sipping from a can of Red Bull inside the team's own sacred headquarters? That was the ultimate slap in the face. The €100,000 fine, the price of a sip? And just when things couldn't get more surreal, Ferrari's legal team sprang into action. Within an hour, an internal inquiry was launched. By the time the F1 world caught wind of the incident, reports surfaced that Ferrari was slapping Hamilton with a staggering €100,000 fine for what they officially labeled as conduct detrimental to the Scuderia's brand integrity. Was it an overreaction? A strategic warning shot? A message to the world that Ferrari does not tolerate disloyalty? Whatever the reason, the fine sent shockwaves through the paddock. Did Hamilton do it on purpose? This is where things get truly wild. Was this all just an innocent mistake, or a calculated power move? Hamilton is no rookie when it comes to controversy. Some insiders believe this was a subtle flex, a psychological game to remind Ferrari who he really is, a global icon who plays by his own rules. Others, however, insist it was nothing more than an unfortunate lapse in judgment, an honest mistake that spiraled out of control. But knowing Hamilton's razor-sharp awareness, can anything he does really be an accident? The F1 world reacts, a global spectacle. As expected, the internet exploded. Lewis just committed high treason inside Maranello, one fan wrote. This has to be the most expensive sip of an energy drink in history. What was he thinking? Former F1 drivers also chimed in. Jenson Button laughed off the incident, calling it peak Hamilton mischief, while Nico Rosberg, ever the critic, suggested it might have been an intentional PR stunt. Even Red Bull's Christian Horner couldn't resist taking a cheeky dig. Looks like Lewis still prefers our drinks over whatever Ferrari's serving. What happens next? With tensions already sky high in the 2025 silly season, this Red Bull incident has added gasoline to the fire. Will Ferrari brush this off as a bizarre one-time slip-up, or is this a serious warning sign about Hamilton's loyalty? Could this impact future contract talks? And most importantly, how will Ferrari's leadership respond moving forward? One thing's for sure, Formula One just got its latest off-track drama, and the world can't stop watching. The reaction was nothing short of seismic. Gasps erupted like a tidal wave crashing through the garage. Engineers, mechanics, and high-ranking Ferrari executives stood frozen, their faces twisted in sheer horror. Time seemed to stop. Conversations died mid-sentence. The air itself grew thick with disbelief. Had they just witnessed this? Had they truly seen the most historic signing in Ferrari's modern era, Sir Lewis Hamilton, openly, unapologetically, brazenly sipping from a Red Bull can? In Maranello, at the heart of Ferrari. A betrayal so unthinkable, so catastrophic, that for a split second, even the mechanics holding wrenches and tools felt their grips weaken. One nearly dropped a torque wrench. Another, an engineer with 2 decades in Formula One, actually stumbled backward as if he had been physically struck. The shockwave was that powerful. Hamilton had not just taken a sip of an energy drink. He had committed an act of treason. The chaos erupts. The Ferrari garage detonated into madness. Some team members physically turned away, as if witnessing something so sacrilegious might burn their retinas. Others lunged toward Hamilton, frantic, desperate to snatch the offending can from his hands before the photographers, who were already raising their cameras, could immortalize this absolute catastrophe. But it was already too late. Shutters clicked. Fingers flew across keyboards. Within seconds, headlines were being drafted. Social media exploded. Police car light scandal in Maranello. Hamilton caught drinking Red Bull. Police car light. Fire disaster at Ferrari. Has Hamilton already betrayed the team? Fire. The paddock would be on fire before the day was over. And then came the eruption. At the far end of the garage, Frédéric Vasseur, Ferrari's team principal, stood motionless for a brief moment, his expression unreadable. And then, all hell broke loose. His roar cut through the chaos like a whip. What the hell are you doing? Silence. Dead silence. Mechanics held their breath. Engineers froze. A rookie staffer who had only been with Ferrari for 2 weeks went pale. Vasseur charged across the floor, his face a deep, furious shade of red, veins pulsing at his temples. He was livid. Fuming. Hamilton, however, unbothered. He turned, still holding the offending Red Bull can, and raised an eyebrow at Vasseur's volcanic rage. With the coolness of a man who had 7 world titles to his name, he shrugged and took another sip. It's just an energy drink, mate. The Ferrari garage imploded. Vasseur sees red, rage erupts in Ferrari garage. Team principal Frédéric Vasseur was fuming. A man known for his strategic mind and cool-headed leadership completely lost his composure as he stormed across the garage. His eyes locked onto Hamilton like a missile homing in on its target. The Frenchman's face twisted with sheer disbelief and fury, veins bulging, voice escalating with every step. Just an energy drink? Just. You're standing in the middle of a Ferrari garage, in front of media fans, and our sponsors, drinking a product from the team that has been our greatest rival for decades. What the hell were you thinking, Lewis? The sheer intensity of the moment was deafening. The garage fell into a stunned silence, the once bustling workspace now frozen in place as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what had just happened. Mechanics, holding wrenches and tire guns, exchanged nervous glances. Engineers, mid-discussion over data sheets, suddenly stopped speaking. Even the drivers in the paddock, typically immune to team drama, turned their heads toward the Ferrari garage, sensing that something monumental was unfolding. And Lewis? He just stood there. A slight smirk. Was it defiance? Was it amusement? Or was it just sheer obliviousness to the hurricane he had just unleashed? Moneybag bomb sponsors in panic. Millions at stake. Moneybag bomb. As if Vasseur's rage wasn't enough, the real crisis was happening behind the scenes. The moment that Red Bull can was raised to Hamilton's lips, Ferrari's biggest sponsors went into full-blown emergency mode. Telephone receiver panicked phone calls. Furious emails. Emergency board meetings. Executives from Shell, Ray-Ban, Santander, Richard Mille, and Siva Logistics were scrambling to understand what had just happened. Some had invested hundreds of millions into the Ferrari brand, only to see their star driver endorsing a direct competitor in front of the world. One high-ranking executive reportedly slammed his phone down so hard it shattered. Another was heard yelling, "Does he even know who pays his salary?" One of the most shocking reactions came from a Ferrari insider, who revealed that at least two major sponsors were now considering re-evaluating their financial commitments to the team if immediate action wasn't taken. This is not just a mistake. This is a full-blown crisis. The financial impact? Potentially tens of millions, gone. But that wasn't the only problem. Loudspeaker: the internet explodes. Hashtag Red Bull Gate breaks records. Loudspeaker. The moment the footage hit the internet, it was absolute mayhem. Social media went into overdrive, with fans, pundits, and even celebrities jumping into the chaos. Within minutes, the hashtag Red Bull Gate skyrocketed to the #1 trending topic on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Fire memes flooded the internet. Fire debates erupted on fan forums. Fire conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. Was this a power move by Hamilton? A subtle dig at Ferrari? Or simply a thoughtless mistake that had now spiraled into the biggest scandal of the F1 season? Opinions were divided. Some fans saw it as classic Hamilton, a fearless rebel who does what he wants, when he wants. Others, especially the Ferrari tifosi, saw it as a slap in the face, a blatant act of disrespect to a team that had just placed their trust in him. Red Square: how can we support a driver who doesn't respect the Ferrari legacy? Blue Square: it's just a drink. People need to relax. Red Square: he wouldn't dare do this at Mercedes. Why is he doing it here? Blue Square: he's playing mind games with Red Bull and Ferrari at the same time. Genius. The F1 community was at war over what it all meant. Warning: Ferrari's PR nightmare. Will they punish Hamilton? Warning. As the backlash grew by the second, Ferrari's PR team was in full-scale damage control mode. Police Scarlight: would they release an official statement? Police Scarlight: would they issue a warning to Hamilton? Police Scarlight: would there be an internal fine, or worse, disciplinary action? Rumors began circulating that Ferrari executives had been summoned to Maranello for an emergency meeting, with some sources claiming that the team was discussing an internal penalty for Hamilton's actions. A former Ferrari insider weighed in. Ferrari is a brand built on prestige, loyalty, and tradition. When you drive for Ferrari, you represent Ferrari at all times. This kind of incident, especially in such a public setting, is the kind of thing that gets addressed immediately. But what could they realistically do? Hamilton is Hamilton. A 7-time world champion. A global icon. Ferrari's biggest signing in years. Would they risk angering him by coming down too hard? Or would they risk alienating their biggest sponsors by doing nothing at all? The pressure was unbearable. Hourglass not done, the world waits. What happens next? Hourglass not done. With every passing minute, the drama only intensified. Fans refreshed Twitter obsessively, waiting for Ferrari's official response. Journalists dug for insider scoops, eager to be the first to break new details. And as for Hamilton, he remained silent. No tweets. No Instagram posts. No public comments. Nothing. Was he ignoring the backlash? Or was this all part of a larger game, one that only he understood? One thing was certain: Formula One had just witnessed one of its biggest controversies in years. And the story was far from over. Police Scarlight: stay tuned. This is just the beginning. Police Scarlight. The final straw, the sanction, Ferrari's earth-shattering decision and Hamilton's defiance. Fire: a seemingly small act ignites a firestorm in Maranello. Fire. What started as an ordinary paddock moment, Lewis Hamilton casually sipping on a can of Red Bull, had rapidly escalated into one of the most shocking disciplinary actions in Ferrari's modern history. The sight of their newly signed superstar, dressed head to toe in Ferrari red, openly holding the branding of their fiercest energy drink rival, was a gut punch to the very soul of the team. At first, it seemed like just another paddock quirk, something that would generate a few headlines, some memes, and a bit of social media banter. But the reaction inside Ferrari's headquarters? Absolute chaos. Maranello's executive offices turned into a battlefield. Emails flew, phones rang non-stop, and emergency meetings were called within minutes. The moment the images and videos of Hamilton drinking a Red Bull hit social media, Ferrari's upper management knew this wasn't something they could afford to ignore. EYE's sponsors were watching. Warning, the board of directors was livid. Chart decreasing Ferrari's PR team was scrambling. Tensions were already high within the team. Hamilton's arrival had sent shockwaves through Ferrari's traditional hierarchy. He wasn't just any driver. He was an institution. A global icon with an influence so immense that every action he took carried weight far beyond the racetrack. But now, with this one rebellious act, Hamilton had done something unthinkable. He had directly challenged Ferrari's brand power. The question was, how would they respond? Police car light Ferrari strikes back, Euro 100,000 fine and a coldly worded statement police car light. Within hours, Ferrari had made its decision. The punishment was swift, severe, and undeniable. Red Circle Lewis Hamilton was fined €100,000. In an official statement, Ferrari confirmed the sanction, stating that Hamilton had been penalized for actions that compromise Ferrari's brand integrity and partnership commitments. Every single word in that statement was carefully crafted, dissected, and scrutinized by analysts, journalists, and fans alike. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist. This was Ferrari sending a message, not just to Hamilton, but to the entire world. It was a warning shot, a declaration of power, a signal that no one, not even a 7-time world champion, was bigger than Ferrari itself. But the real bombshell? It wasn't just about the fine. It was about what this moment represented. Ferrari had made a choice. They weren't going to let Hamilton's immense star power dictate the rules. They weren't going to let his free-spirited, unapologetic personality bulldoze over the team's ironclad brand values. They had drawn a line in the sand. And now, all eyes were on Hamilton. Trophy Hamilton responds, defiance, arrogance, and a storm of controversy. Trophy. Hours passed. The world waited. Would Hamilton issue an apology? Would he acknowledge the uproar he had caused? Would he attempt to mend fences with Ferrari's furious executives and their passionate Tifosi fanbase? The answer came in the form of just 6 words. Speaking head, it's just a drink. Didn't realize it was a crime. Delivered with his signature smirk, his response oozed defiance, sarcasm, and zero remorse. He wasn't backing down. He wasn't apologizing. If anything, he was doubling down. The reaction? Nuclear. Fire Ferrari fans were outraged. Some called it disrespectful, others downright insubordinate. How could the man Ferrari had welcomed as their savior so openly mock the team's values? How could he, after being fined €100,000, brush it off as if it were nothing? Thought balloon, but was this really just a mistake? Or was Hamilton making a calculated move? Had he just deliberately tested Ferrari's patience, seeing just how far he could push before they snapped? Or was he making a much bigger statement, one that suggested he had no interest in conforming to Ferrari's strict, traditionalist culture? The questions swirled, the speculation grew, and the storm showed no signs of stopping. Construction the fallout. Has Ferrari already lost control? Construction. Behind the scenes, Ferrari's inner circle was rattled. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Hamilton's arrival had been hailed as the dawn of a new era. He was meant to be the missing piece, the final ingredient in Ferrari's quest for championship glory. But now, the cracks were already showing. This was no longer just about a can of Red Bull. This was about control. This was about power. Had Ferrari underestimated Hamilton's rebellious nature? Had they assumed that he would simply fall in line and play by their rules? If so, this incident had exposed a harsh truth. Hamilton wasn't here to be molded into a Ferrari puppet. If anything, he was here to reshape Ferrari in his own image. And that terrified Maranello's traditionalists. Exploding head, the bigger picture. Are we witnessing the beginning of a civil war? Exploding head. This isn't the first time Hamilton has been at the center of controversy. But this time, it's different. This time, he's inside Ferrari, a team where loyalty, discipline, and respect for the brand are sacred. And already, he's challenging the very foundation of that culture. So where does this all lead? Pushpin, does Ferrari tighten the leash even further? Do they risk alienating their superstar by imposing even harsher restrictions? Pushpin, does Hamilton escalate the situation? Does he push back harder, making it clear that he won't be controlled? Pushpin, or is this just the beginning of a deeper power struggle, one that could ultimately define Ferrari's success or failure in the coming years? One thing is certain, this story is far from over. If this is only Hamilton's first major controversy in red, then buckle up, because the ride has only just begun. Police Scarlight, what comes next? The explosive aftermath of #Red Bullgate. Is Formula One about to implode? Police Scarlight. Formula One is no stranger to drama, but what we are witnessing right now is on a level never seen before in the sport's long and illustrious history. The fallout from #Red Bullgate is sending shockwaves through the paddock, the media, and even the very foundations of the FIA itself. Every second that ticks by, the tension thickens, the stakes grow higher, and the unanswered questions multiply like wildfire. Racing car collision. Has Ferrari's dream signing turned into a nightmare before the season even begins? Lewis Hamilton's move to Ferrari was supposed to be the biggest, boldest, and most talked about transfer in modern F1 history. It was the start of a new chapter for the seven-time world champion, a chance for him to cement his legacy with the most legendary team the sport has ever known. But now, just weeks into this new partnership, the controversy surrounding Red Bull, the FIA, and Hamilton's involvement in the scandal threatens to derail everything before it even gets off the ground. The whispers inside the paddock are growing louder. Could Ferrari's sponsors, powerful corporate entities that pump millions into the Scuderia, be secretly plotting behind the scenes, demanding a harsher punishment for Hamilton? Could they push the team to take an unthinkable action, forcing Ferrari's top brass to reconsider whether bringing Hamilton into the prancing horse was the right move after all? Will the backlash become so intense that Hamilton's Ferrari career is over before it even begins? Bomb the Hamilton dilemma: apologize or rebel. For years, Lewis Hamilton has been a divisive figure in F1. To some, he's a hero, a trailblazer who shattered records, broke barriers, and used his platform to speak out on issues far beyond racing. To others, he's a troublemaker, a disruptor who challenges authority, pushes boundaries, and refuses to conform to the traditional mold of an F1 driver. Now, faced with the most explosive scandal of his career, Hamilton stands at a crossroads. Does he choose the diplomatic path? Does he issue a carefully worded public statement, one that smooths things over, reassures Ferrari's bosses, and puts an end to the controversy? Does he step in front of the cameras with that signature calm demeanor, take responsibility, and promise to focus purely on racing? Or does he double down? Does he go into full-on rebel mode, turning this into a battle between himself and the establishment? Will he call out the FIA, take a stand against the sports politics, and throw gasoline onto an already raging fire? Because let's be real, Lewis Hamilton has never been one to back down from a fight. Whether it was battling racial injustice, demanding transparency in the sport, or calling out inconsistencies in FIA rulings, he has always walked the fine line between superstar and provocateur. And now, as he steps into Ferrari, a team that thrives on tradition, discipline, and keeping controversies behind closed doors, the clash of cultures is becoming painfully obvious. Is this just the tip of the iceberg? Formula One insiders are buzzing with speculation. If Hamilton chooses to fight, could we be witnessing the beginning of an all-out war between the FIA, Ferrari, and F1's most iconic driver? Will Ferrari's team principal Fred Vasseur be forced to publicly distance himself from Hamilton to protect the team's reputation? Could there be secret meetings happening right now between Ferrari's top executives and their most powerful sponsors to discuss damage control? And what about Red Bull? If Christian Horner and Helmut Marko feel that their team has been unfairly targeted in this scandal, could they go on the offensive and release information that drags Ferrari, Hamilton, or even Mercedes into the storm? We've seen rivalries in F1 before: Prost versus Senna, Schumacher versus Hill, Alonso versus Hamilton. But what is unfolding right now is something far beyond a personal feud. This is political. This is corporate. This is a fight for power at the highest levels of the sport. Could Hamilton's entire legacy be at stake? Let's not forget what's really at risk here. Lewis Hamilton's reputation as one of the greatest drivers in history hangs in the balance. If he plays his cards right, he could emerge from this scandal even stronger, more respected, and more feared than ever before. He could use this as an opportunity to show his resilience, prove that he belongs in Ferrari red, and silence his critics once and for all. But if he miscalculates, if he alienates Ferrari's leadership, angers their sponsors, or gets on the wrong side of the FIA, this could be the moment where his fairy tale ending turns into a nightmare. We are watching history unfold in real time. Will Hamilton rise from the ashes, or will this controversy consume everything he has built? Rocket, one thing is certain: F1 will never be the same after this. The sport is teetering on the edge of a seismic shift. The power struggles behind closed doors, the secret negotiations, the whispered conversations in the paddock, they are all leading to one inevitable conclusion: something big is coming. Could it be the most shocking decision in modern Ferrari history? A forced apology? A sudden rule change? A last-minute switch in team strategy? Or something even more unthinkable? This isn't just a scandal. This is a reckoning. Collision: what happens next will change Formula One forever. Stay tuned, because when the truth finally comes out, it will send shockwaves through the entire sport. And you do not want to miss it. Fire Racing Car.